In every moment, you choose who you want to be and how you want to live your life. It's your ultimate power and your inescapable responsibility. You are the master of your reality. It doesn't always feel that way, though. And too often, we accept the awful fictions of our fears. We believe our faulty assumptions, our misguided logic. We perpetuate our insecurities and our vanities. We struggle to understand what success really means, what value really means. We fail to listen to each other and to our own hearts. How do we take back control, creating the lives we want for ourselves with awareness and reality? That's the question we consider in this interview series. We talk about it with folks who clearly have a lot to teach us on the subject. Today's guest is one such person. Erik Weihenmayer is an extreme sports superstar. The man is just off the charts in every way. More on that later, on all the incredible feats he's accomplished. But spoiler alert, they include summiting Mount Everest, just to give you an idea. He's also completely blind, like me. Erik lost his sight at a young age and decided that notwithstanding, he was going to continue to pursue his passion for extreme sport. He's written a few books. His first two books, Touch the Top of the World and The Adversity Advantage, both phenomenal and very successful books for good reason. And his third book, the most recent book, is new. It's called No Barriers. And we're going to talk to him a bit about that book today. Erik, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
For those who are not familiar with your work and huge super fans, as I am, let me just qualify you as an expert witness, if I might, for a second here. So, you are fully blind, correct?
Totally blind, yeah.
And you have been since the age of?
Freshman year, just before my freshman year in high school, so like 14.
Just before your freshman year of high school, so around age 14. Since then, you have summited the highest peak on each of the 7 continents, correct?
Yes.
That includes Everest, does it not?
Yes.
Mount Everest, for those who are less familiar. I'm kind of in the know, so I just call it Everest. Can you tell me what the Primal Quest is?
Primal Quest was this really cool, they call it an expedition adventure race. It's like some people know the Eco Challenge. Mm-hmm. This is like an Eco Challenge. And it was a 9-day event. You're running, you're biking, you're kayaking, you're caving, you're climbing, orienteering, all these different activities that you do, and then you don't sleep much. You just sleep a minimal amount, and then there's this huge, because of that, there's this huge attrition rate amongst the teams. I think 80 started and 42 teams finished.
Now you're speaking about a particular Primal Quest because you did it.
Yeah, I did back a while ago.
Yeah,
2003 or 4.
So I was asked to accept an award from Associated Services of the Blind the year after they gave you the award. And so I went up to give my keynote address, and at the time I was, wait for it, a lawyer. So I had to get up and say, last year you guys had Weihenmayer, this superhuman, blind or sighted, frankly, and now you're stuck with a lawyer. So this is now my opportunity to thank you for being a very hard act to follow.
Awesome. No, your career has been so impressive, man. I've loved reading your book. I just loved reading all the stories, all these. I mean, like, you are a super pioneer. Well, so I think we have mutual respect here.
That's a beautiful thing. Thank you for saying that. So there's a story. I love it. I think when you finished your Everest expedition, I think the leader of the expedition said to you, don't let climbing Everest be the greatest thing you ever do. Like, literally, you were just done with it, and that was the advice.
Yeah, you're crushed. I was crushed coming down the mountain. You're just so elated. You're happy to be alive. Your legs are like rubber bands that have been stretched too many times. So you're just really happy, euphoric. To have succeeded in this Mission Impossible expedition. And and then he pulled me aside and he said, now do me a favor, don't make this climb the greatest thing you ever do. And I was thinking, That's hideously bad timing, PV.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go home and rest for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
It's like I'd lost 40 pounds,
Oh,
and it was the greatest advice though anyone could have given me, because things can become like a mausoleum or a museum, or a cemetery even. Like, you hang your trophies up on the wall, and then they become this memorial to like what you've done in the past. And PV was warning me against that, like not making Everest a trophy, but making it like a catalyst to more good things in your life that bring you forward in sort of unique ways.
yeah. Integrate it into who you are. Make it part of your character.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
At
So,
the time, I didn't know exactly what he meant. I was just like, well, what could possibly come next?
I
But
thought
over
this was the
time,
tallest. I thought this was the highest mountain. There's a higher
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, go to Mars.
Oh, that's awesome. So, um, from following your work, I know you took his advice to heart, or you've at the very least lived an example of his advice. So, can you tell us some of the activities you're engaged in now? Tell us about your latest book, etc.
Yeah, well, the book is really about that challenge, responding to that challenge, what does come next in your life. And so um, I wrote about these great adventures that I'd had since Everest, and not always adventures where there's a defined summit, you know, like um, like meeting people like Mark Wellman and Hugh Herr, these incredible pioneers. Mark is a double leg amputee, or excuse me, Hugh Herr is a double leg amputee, and Mark Wellman is a paraplegic. Both are extraordinary climbers. They climb with these really innovative systems, and I got to climb with those two, and ultimately was so blown away by the ways that those two guys broke through the barriers of their life that we decided to come together to start a movement, an organization that we called No Barriers. And so a lot of the book is this no barriers journey, kind of understanding what that meant to me in my life and the people I've met, the people that pushed me forward, and then building that organization. Now, this year, we will impact over 12,000 participants. So we grow from this little, tiny grassroots organization to now being a pretty serious force in the world. So we're really proud of our work. And then I intertwined throughout the book the adventure of kayaking the Grand Canyon, which was my next big adventure after the 7 summits, and learning how to kayak, which was an 8-year journey and pretty hard. I mean, I guess that's an understatement. Very hard, considering a lot of the barriers that I had to break through.
So when I was 13, my family and I, the six of us, took a Grand Canyon river rafting expedition.
Nice.
We were on these enormous, semi-rigid, raft slash boat thingies,
Yeah.
and camped and all that and whatever, and had guides. And I still felt that was an immensely grueling and challenging experience for me as a 13-year-old. I cannot imagine. I say it with all sincerity. Kayaking the Grand Canyon, sighted or blind, certainly blind.
Yeah, and I'd taken some blind kids down the Grand Canyon as part of one of our first No Barriers youth expeditions, and we were on those big rafts, and it was really, really fun, as you said. I mean, it was incredible to experience the canyon. But Harlan Tanny, who was the safety kayaker of the trip, started teaching me how to do a little bit of kayaking, and so I kayaked a few of the smaller rapids, and then at the end of that trip, he said, "You should come back and I'll guide you down the whole river." And 8 years later, I took him up on it.
That's amazing. And is it like skiing? Essentially, you have a guide sort of speaking to you.
Yeah, exactly. I have a guide who's behind me. This was one of the sort of things that we had to figure out, because my guide would be behind me, but it's unlike skiing where you can stop at any time.
Right.
You're going at the energy of the river, and it's not just one energy. It's lots of different strands of energy, pushing and shoving in different directions. Like somebody might be 2 feet to the right, and they're getting shoved in a completely different direction than you are. So it's like embracing chaos. So my guide often shot by me, or I would get shot into an eddy, which is like the stagnant water on the side of the river, or I would get stopped by what's called a hole, which is like a washing machine, or I'd get bounced off a rock and spinning around, and my guide would shoot past me, and I'd be on my own. So we had to develop radios, and the radios, finding waterproof radios, they actually really don't exist the way we wanted them to. You couldn't use like a push to talk system because you have a kayaking paddle in your hand. So we had to find a system that you could communicate like in a duplex way, like a cell phone, where you talk back and forth to each other, and it would be in relative real time, not even like a second or half a second of delay, because a half a second is like an eternity in a rapid. You can just get hammered in a half a second. So you need almost real-time communication. So even when we found the radios, they still didn't work because of a number of challenges. So they'd only work half the time.
I can't imagine what that's like. From my much more modest experience of skiing, which, as you say, you could stop anytime or whatever. I know the few times that I've lost communication or been out of range of a radio or whatever, and there's that sort of terrifying moment that you're kind of on your own, which, as you said, in skiing you can stop or whatever. I can't imagine what that's like when you're in the middle of rapids in the Grand Canyon in a kayak. I mean, you must be literally the Zen master of just sort of quieting the anxiety and fear.
Yeah, there's the anxiety of like thinking maybe they said something, maybe they told you this really crucial left and you just didn't hear it. And so you're just about to slam into a rock or something, or go into some really undesirable part of the river. Like there's a rapid that I trained on the Colorado River, and their bottom rapid was called Maneater. And if you went straight or right, if you're just a tiny bit right, you go through the waves. But if you got sucked left, you went into the Maneater, and you didn't want to do that. And the first time I kayaked that, my radios didn't work, and I went right into the Maneater, and I just got hammered. And so, yeah, there's that anxiety too. You want reliable communications. Yeah. But yeah, this Zen Master thing is really maybe a sub-theme and message of the book, and a lot of my experience trying to figure that out, because I definitely am not like this natural Zen master. That's not part of my nature. I think I am fearful like most people. I had a lot of fear and frustration when I went blind. I get fear and frustration throughout my life. So kayaking is something that if you're going to succeed, you do have to let go. It's different from climbing or skiing. You have to sort of let go. Like in skiing, they say you either beat the mountain or it beats you, if you're skiing moguls, let's say. But in kayak, yes, there is sort of that principle, but there's also this energy that's so powerful that you will never beat it. So you have to ride the energy. You have to sort of let go. It's a lot of letting go versus taking on. And so, yeah, it was a great lesson for me. And I got sort of brief glimpses of that feeling of Zen, of connection with the river. But it was a lot of hard work to get there, and you have to earn it every time.
Gosh, that is so wonderful. It's amazing. I'm sitting here, hearing you talk about all these amazing efforts you undertake to have no barriers, no limits. I wonder. I get frustrated sometimes when I feel like I'm just sort of profoundly underestimated, almost to the point of kind of being overlooked, where the assumptions sort of people make about my abilities, it's like, that they're just, I remember the other day I was sitting in the waiting lounge, quote unquote lounge, at a gate for my flight, at the airport, and this woman came over and said, "You must be you're amazing. You're just so impressive. I don't know how you do it." And I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what it is. What am I doing? I'm sitting here. So I wonder for you, who has just like literally achieved the definition of like the full extent of what a human being can tackle. Is it ever really frustrating or disheartening for you when people kind of just see you as so limited?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I don't know. The only example I can think of is, you're right, airplane examples. They must be prevalent in our lives because, yeah, like when you are walking off the plane, there's always the person that's waiting there, and she's like, "Do you need a wheelchair?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm blind, but I can walk. Like
Yeah,
I'm walking. Do I look like I need a wheelchair? You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like what is there something? What are you seeing in me that I'm not quite understanding?
Yeah,
Like, do
I
I?
get the wheelchair thing, but that's even after the flight attendants who I don't want to come off like I'm complaining. Often
Yeah,
they're very nice and they meet and well meaning or whatever. But very often they're like, when I go to get off, when I get up to go to leave the plane, they're like, no, you got to wait till everyone else gets off the plane. We'll
yeah.
have someone on to help you. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't need any help to get off the
last
airplane.
how can you? Yeah, I can't ever do that.
Yeah,
It sort of feels like a back of the bus sort of feeling. So
yeah, it
I mean,
does.
I think people are well intentioned,
Yeah,
but yeah, it comes off sometimes where it just sort of hits your ego. It sort of undermines you as a person. I think honestly the worst experience I've had recently is I was in Germany doing a talk, and I went to Legoland. Literally, this is like a little like kiddie rides,
yeah.
and and I had my two kids with me, and I thought, oh, it's a cold day, we'll just go to Legoland, they'll enjoy it, and they wouldn't let me on the ride because they said I'd be a safety
Oh,
risk, and I was like, you got to be kidding! Like 2-year-olds are on this little kid like ride where you're sitting in a little chair and there's a
yeah.
seatbelt and you kind of zip around a little track, and I'm like, I couldn't go on the ride with my kids, um, uh, and that was just that kind of thing just blows you away. So yeah, you do see some just outright discrimination still in the world.
Yeah, and it just it's it's an ignorance, but not an intentional or a malicious ignorance. Often it's just an ignorance. I'm struck in weird ways. It kind of resonates with the idea you talked about, how there's the energy of the river that you'll never overcome, and in some respects you're fighting it, but in other respects you're trying to sort of harness it and work with it. I find in those moments where there's just such a fundamental disconnect between my world and my life and what others are sort of assuming about my world and my life. There's a propensity. It's so easy to be inspired to anger or frustration or resentment, and I don't know. Again, it's like that river. Maybe you can speak to what you do to try to stay grounded and connected with people and sort of see the best in folks as opposed to feeling hateful.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think if you get angry, it's not you're done
Yeah,
educating people or being helpful or making an impact. That's just like feels good to blow up, but it's not achieving anything. So yeah, no, I definitely um, see. I think all people with any kind of disability should sort of be in a way ambassadors. Just trying to calmly, patiently educating people, and I know that can get frustrating for people, but I think there's no other way around it, and you can educate people. You can and because they don't know what kind of help you need. In fact, one person who's blind
ha.
uh, may need a lot of help, and another person who's been blind for a long time and maybe has better orientation skills doesn't need as much help.
Erik,
So,
I'm going to go on record and just guess that I need a lot more help than you do. I'm just going to put that out
no,
there.
I need a lot of help too sometimes. Just I have a sighted wife, so yeah, she gets she she's fixing a lot of things in my life.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, no, I agree. It's I don't think it's I think it's immature, honestly, to be lashing out at the world. Yeah, you gotta use that energy and run with it for sure.
Oh, Erik, I could talk to you. I could talk to you for hours. And I hope we can do this again. But for now, thank you again for your shining example in my life in very very personal and specific ways, and obviously in general for everyone. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And let me tell you just one thing that might be exciting for your community, and that is that our No Barriers organization is going to New York City in October, October 5th and 6th. We'll probably have 5,000 people to this event. It's a really what we call our summit, and we have amazing speakers and innovators and scientists and engineers who are bringing these incredible innovations to the world, like the Sam car. It's a
Yeah.
car was built by Arrow, this company. There's this guy Sam Smith, who was a race car driver, and he got in an accident. He's a quadriplegic, but he now can drive this amazing car with his eyes. He's gone over 100 miles an hour. So we bring a lot of cool innovations to the table, and then we have a lot of entertainment and music and art and activities and adventure, just kind of teaching this idea of no barriers to our community. And so it's open to all, it's free. And I hope some of your group will join us there.
Thank you for that. October 5th and 6th in New York. I'm going to try to be there. And
Yeah,
when it gets closer, we'll remind our community as well. We'll social media and otherwise.
No Barriers is nobarriersusa.org.
NoBarriersUSA.org. Awesome.
Cool, man.
Thank you, Eric. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks. Good. Talk to you soon.